What up, friends? They're living legends, and today we're going to be reviewing Girls' Generation's newest album, Forever One. This is the 7th album by the iconic K-pop girl group, Girls' Generation. Girls' Generation pretty much have legendary status in the scene. I mean, they're the nation's girl group for a reason. Though I haven't followed them too closely, it's hard to deny how much influence they've had on the K-pop scene and just the Korean entertainment scene in general ever since their 2007 hit Into the New World. For a group that's been around this long, it's kind of hard to guess what they'll sound like in the present day, even though they've been constantly releasing albums fairly consistently ever since their debut. Their newest record is a blend of sorts of their dance pop and synth pop sounds that they helped pioneer way back then, in addition to some very smooth, alternative R&B that kind of shocked me with how varied it can get at times. The first 2 tracks on the album, while not bad, kind of betray the overall sound that the record is going for. It doesn't give off the most accurate first impression. The title track single is an EDM-infused synth-pop tune featuring these very soaring vocals and synths alongside a very pumping beat. The chorus especially creates a wall of sound that's very maximalist but still pleasant. That said, though, the song overall isn't doing anything too new, and it also doesn't sound as layered or intricate compared to a lot of the other songs on the project. It also falls into some dance pop tropes, preventing it from reaching the proper heights it could have, even if lyrically it is fairly fitting, as it's this sort of bombastic and triumphant love tune. Lucky Like That follows similar patterns to the previous song, although it leans more into the pop side of things thanks to the breezy guitar and relatively simple beat. Again, it's not bad, but it's something that we've seen a lot of groups do at this point, and it's not as fresh as maybe it would have been around the time when the girls debuted. The vocals are still light and elegant, while also still holding power, and I'm actually kind of a fan of the anthemic guitar solo that comes in near the end. But overall, it's just kind of a par for the course pop song. 17 is when I think the album starts to get interesting. We're starting to get a bit more layered now, exploring some funk and alternative R&B influences in addition to the pop. I love how piano-focused this one is, providing a very elegant yet bouncy backbone to the track in addition to that killer beat. Ethereal synths and vocals, good grooves, this is a solid song. I'm also into the rap verse and how the song, while elegant, has some serious tendencies that helps showcase how the girls have matured ever since they first started. This is especially true in the lyrics as well, looking back on past relationships and kind of examining how they've grown from them. And also how certain special people make them feel like they're 17 again. Villain is another solid track, a lot edgier than what I was first expecting from the group. The dark bass and samples are super fun, and the electronic yet punchy beat also provides some great support here. This one feels particularly modern as well, that sort of bad bitch anthem with those aggressive flows and instrumentals. Yoon's part especially has a lot of attitude and helps establish that don't give a fuck attitude that I really like about this track. The chorus is catchy, we got some interesting flows here, and I like how that siren sample is integrated into the main beat. You Better Run is super slick, and it's by far the most experimental song on the record. The beat on this one is really something, with a bunch of odd switch-ups and effects that create a very chaotic yet refined experience. The bass and electronics are powerful and demand your attention, and that chorus just punches you in the gut in the perfect way. The verses are great in their own right, with a bunch of neat synths and electro elements that feel right at home here despite how crazy this song feels pacing-wise. We've also got some pretty cool lyrics about coming back stronger than before to essentially spite those who wronged you. It's a great example of an orchestrated chaos. I think they should be really proud of this one. Closer almost gives off some city pop vibes a bit, if they lean more into the dance side of things. Some delicate vocals and piano over a dance beat is a pretty simple formula, but it's a very effective one as well, creating a very suave and intimate experience. Slick guitar in the background alongside some nice flow variations establishes vulnerable imagery of sort of like driving through the city at night with your lover or something. It's pretty cool. In fact, the lyrics also kind of describe something like this in a more storytelling-driven fashion, too. Those strings during the bridge are a classic for this sound, and they fit in just as well here, and those harmonies, man, oh, they're too good. We're slowing it down a bit with a mellow and dreamy R&B track with Mood Lamp. It's basically the vibes of the previous song, but more chill, which makes it a pretty fitting follow-up. It might not stand out as much because of this, but it's still very well composed, I think. I'm also digging how wavy that instrumental is sounding, preventing it from getting stale. The guitar is warm, the vocals are elegant, and the whole thing just has a very laid back and smooth vibe. I find the drums to be a bit flat in comparison to the rest of the instrumental, but it's not the biggest deal because the mood is still generally pretty well established. The next two tracks though, again, while not bad, don't do a lot to make them memorable. Summer Night is fine, having more of a 90s and early 2000s R&B feel, but I find that it doesn't have too much of an impact because of how sparse the instrumental is, and also because it sounds a bit more whimsical compared to the more deep and layered experiences of the rest of the record. Still, the chorus is really catchy, and I find the vocals to be pretty fun too. Freedom is also very sparse, maybe even having less of a presence compared to Summer Night, but it still does fit in with the album's general sound. I like the more electro-funk driven direction that this one has going for it, but it still sounds pretty flat in comparison to a lot of the other songs on here, even if I do think that cowbell was a nice addition. The ending track of the record, Paper Plane, is actually pretty cool though, featuring these sort of 80s and early 90s album ender vibes thanks to the deep beats and bass alongside those soaring synths. The vocals also follow that pattern, feeling very lofty and dreamlike. There's a lot of texture on this one, feeling very glamorous in its instrumental despite not being as maximalist as some other songs on here. It definitely sounds like a breath of fresh air after hardship, which is very fitting for the lyrics as the girls are basically getting everything they've ever dreamed of, but they won't stop there. Forever One overall surprised me with how much variety they got out of this sound despite being pretty consistent too. While I do think the first two songs were kind of an odd choice to open the record with, considering they have little to nothing to do with the overall sound of the project, there really wasn't any songs that I disliked on here. The middle of the album is fantastic, full of these fun and layered pop tunes that just take that sound that they've honed in on in so many different directions. A lot of strong performances with various cool sounds and styles. While the album could have been a bit more consistent, and they occasionally find themselves making instrumentals that were a bit too sparse or fall into some dance pop tropes, I do think this album is a solid example for why Girls' Generation are as influential as they are. It really just shows why they have the staying power that they do. I'm feeling a strong 7 on Girls' Generation's Forever One. Of course, we still have to talk about album covers on this show, and I think this is a pretty cool one actually. It does fit the more like synth pop and dance pop oriented stuff as opposed to the more alternative R&B sounds on here, or even like the funk sounds on here. But I do think overall this album is a sort of shimmery celebration sort of album, showcasing, how far the girls have come since their debut. So I think it being very bright and colorful and pink is very fitting for the overall aesthetic of the record. And I also like how it's kind of like a mix of old with a mix of modern. We got the little neon signs in addition to the more classic imagery of love and hearts and stuff like that. So I think this is a pretty cool cover for a pretty cool project. But of course, those are just my thoughts on this newest album by Girls' Generation. What do you guys think? Do you also think this is a great culmination of everything that they've done up until this point? Kind of a new aesthetic for a new generation? Or did it leave you wanting more? Let me know. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, ring the bell if you too are a part of this generation. And until the next one, farewell.